Hey everyone, welcome back to MangaMinute. I'm thrilled to share my latest recap video with you. If you missed the previous one, no worries, just take a quick peek in the description below for the link. Now, let's dive right in and enjoy.
As Hyunso Nam Jin-soon, the second son-in-law of the Black Death Alliance, walked through the halls of his grand manor, his mind churned with calculated ambition. Everything had fallen into place with an almost eerie smoothness, and he marveled at how effortlessly his plans had progressed. The leaders of the Black Death Alliance were utterly unaware of his true allegiance. None of them could have imagined that he was a hidden agent of the heavenly demon divine cult. In their wildest dreams, they would never suspect the threat he posed. His thoughts drifted to his son, Yun So-chong, whose martial prowess was a source of great pride. The boy carried the blood of the Yun family, and even Nam Jin-soon, despite his calculating nature, couldn't deny the boy's remarkable talent. Among his peers, none could rival Yun So-chong's abilities, and Nam Jin-soon had grand plans for him. If his son could demonstrate his martial skills at the upcoming Sichuan Assembly and secure a position within the Black Death Alliance's leadership, the future would be assured. Nam Jin-soon clenched his fist, his lips curling into a sinister smile. This would be the first step in dismantling the Alliance's power. By the time they realized what was happening, it would be too late. The demonic path would have already taken root in Sichuan, and the Black Death Alliance would crumble from within, leaving the heavenly demon divine cult to rise unchallenged. His silent reverie was abruptly shattered by the sound of hurried footsteps. A guard approached with urgency written across his face. The man's breath came in ragged gasps as he blurted out his report. Nam Jin-soon's expression darkened as he recognized the guard, a member of the Heavenly Moon Brigade, the elite force that had been tasked with protecting his son. The guard's words sent a chill through him. Yun So-chong was under attack, assaulted by a masked assailant. The careful plans, the smooth progression of events, now threatened by an unforeseen force. Nam Jin-soon's thoughts raced as anger flickered in his eyes. Whoever dared to interfere with his ambitions would soon learn the full extent of his wrath. As the dust settled and the remnants of the battle lay scattered across the ground, Tang Yeon-Myeong surveyed the chaotic scene with a sigh. The aftermath of the clash had left the workshop in disarray, with debris and fallen bodies marking the intensity of the fight. She murmured to herself, quietly contemplating the mess before her. If her sister had been present, she thought, there would have been no doubt that the sight would have been overwhelming enough to cause her to faint on the spot. Her attention then shifted to Yeon-Myeong, who stood calm amidst the wreckage, his sword still in hand. The thought of reinforcements crossed her mind, and she voiced her concern. The battle might have been won, but if one of the attackers had escaped earlier, they could easily return with a larger force. Yet Yeon-Myeong's response was far from worried. With an air of casual confidence, Yeon-Myeong revealed that he had allowed the enemy to flee on purpose. His calm demeanor remained unshaken as he pointed his sword at Yun So-chong, who stood trembling under the weight of accusation. Yeon-Myeong's eyes narrowed as he addressed So-chong, accusing him of being unknowingly connected to the demon cult. The boy had no idea, Yeon-Myeong mused, of the dangerous web in which he was entangled. There was someone behind the scenes, someone who had hired these men to protect him, and So-chong was utterly blind to it. Yun So-chong, his voice shaking with fear and indignation, stammered out his denial. He insisted he had no ties to the demon cult, claiming ignorance of who these attackers even were. But his words did little to sway Yeon-Myeong, whose stern expression never faltered. So-chong's protests fell on deaf ears as Yeon-Myeong scolded him, his tone sharp. The truth would reveal itself soon enough, Yeon-Myeong promised, as he struck So-chong's head with the blunt side of his sword, silencing the boy's retorts. Turning his gaze toward the entrance, Yeon-Myeong's eyes flickered with anticipation. Whoever had orchestrated this attack would be arriving shortly. Reinforcements were coming, and with them, answers to the questions that still lingered. Yun So-chong, unwittingly at the center of it all, would soon come face to face with the truth. The air outside the workshop grew tense as Nam Jin-soon, the second son-in-law of the Black Death Alliance, arrived with a formidable force of warriors. His voice boomed with authority as he demanded the release of his son, Yun So-chong. The threat was clear. Surrender peacefully or face the wrath of his warriors, who would tear them apart and feed their remains to beasts. Yeon-Myeong remained unervingly calm. His eyes flicked to Yun So-chong, whose neck was now perilously close to the edge of his sword. There was no need for panic. He had already assessed the situation and felt in complete control. Pointing his blade with a steady hand, he met Nam Jin-soon's threat with quiet defiance, knowing full well the power dynamics had shifted. Yun So-chong, seeing his father, let out a desperate cry for help, his voice laced with fear. But from the sidelines, Tang Yeon-Myeong watched the unfolding scene with growing disbelief. The lines between hero and villain blurred before her eyes, and she couldn't help but wonder aloud who truly wore the mantle of the villain. The gathering forces outside only worsened her concerns. There were far more of them now than before. Nam Jin-soon's face twisted in rage at Yeon-Myeong's bold defiance. He demanded to know if his opponent even realized who he was dealing with. But Yeon-Myeong, unfazed, immediately recognized the dark force that lingered around Jin-soon and his men. His words cut through the tension like a blade, exposing the demonic energy that Nam Jin-soon had tried to conceal. The revelation was a deadly accusation, one that could unravel everything Jin-soon had worked to keep hidden. Yeon-Myeong suspected that the Black Death Alliance, Jin-soon's allies, might not look kindly upon discovering the sinister truth about their supposed comrade. Panic flickered in Nam Jin-soon's eyes. How had this man detected the demonic energy? His mind raced, struggling to comprehend how Yeon-Myeong had survived the Heavenly Moon Brigade's ambush unscathed. It was clear now this was no ordinary opponent. Yeon-Myeong needed to be eliminated before he exposed everything. With no other choice, Nam Jin-soon barked his final command. He ordered his warriors to activate the forbidden reverse blood demonic technique, a deadly skill known for its devastating effects. The warriors of the Yun family responded in unison, their bodies radiating dark energy as they prepared for the battle to come. The ominous aura that enveloped them signaled their intent to annihilate Yeon-Myeong, no matter the cost. From the side, Mirio's face paled at the sight. She muttered under her breath, her thoughts racing. The reverse blood demonic technique, an infamous move once wielded by the Heaven's Brilliance Demon Lord during his invasion of the Tang family. The fact that Nam Jin-soon's forces were resorting to such a deadly technique confirmed her worst fears. This battle was about to escalate into something far more dangerous than anyone could have anticipated. Yeon-Myeong stood calmly amidst the rising tension, his gaze fixed on Nam Jin-soon. His tone remained steady as he inquired about the Yun family, subtly probing for connections to Yun Jung-hyuk, a name that held deep significance for him. But Nam Jin-soon's response was filled with mockery, dismissing the question with scorn. To him, such an inquiry was nothing more than a final, pointless grasp at information before an inevitable death. Yet Yeon-Myeong's reply carried the weight of long-buried resentment. He had no personal vendetta against Nam Jin-soon himself, but the Yun family had been the architects of his own family's destruction. The memories of the past stirred within him, dark and bitter. Nam Jin-soon laughed in response, a cold, twisted sound. It was a laugh born of arrogance, knowing the vast scope of his brother's trail of ruin. He gleefully listed the clans that had fallen under their hands, the Jegal family, the Myeong family, and most notably the Tang family, whose lands they now stood upon. It was almost as if he took pride in recounting the bloodlines they had extinguished, their ambitions unchecked. Jin-soon taunted Yeon-Myeong, demanding to know which clan he hailed from, promising not only to kill him but to wipe out whatever remained of his family. As Jin-soon's words dripped with venom, Tang Yeon-Myeong, standing nearby, felt her anger rise like a flame ready to ignite. She clenched her fists, unable to tolerate the threat any longer. Her instincts urged her to rush forward, to fight alongside Yeon-Myeong, to end the vile boasting with her own hands. Yet just as she was about to leap into action, Yeon-Myeong's hand shot out, restraining her. Yeon-Myeong's voice was firm, but her fear was clear. Charging into battle now would only lead to certain death. They were outnumbered and facing a deadly technique from the Heavenly Moon Brigade. At this moment, their only hope was to trust in Yeon-Myeong, to believe that he could withstand the onslaught that was about to come. Nam Jin-soon, sensing victory within his grasp, rallied his men for the final strike. His voice boomed as he gave the command, calling for the Heavenly Moon Brigade to end Yeon-Myeong's life. The warriors, with dark energy swirling around them, readied their weapons, prepared to unleash the full force of their reverse blood demonic technique. As the enemies rallied before him, Yeon-Myeong's familiar spirit stirred, sensing the mounting tension from the Heavenly Moon Brigade. But Yeon-Myeong, unbothered by their numbers or ferocity, responded with a calm certainty, his decision already made. Raising his sword with an elegance that belied the devastation to come, he made a single, fluid motion. What seemed like a simple gesture released an immense slash wave, cutting through the ranks of his enemies with effortless precision. The wave cleaved through the warriors in an instant, leaving the battlefield littered with the fallen. Nam Jin-soon, alongside Mirio and Young, could only watch in disbelief, their minds struggling to process the sheer power they had just witnessed. Amid the aftermath, Nam Jin-soon stood frozen, overwhelmed by the scene. The power Yeon-Myeong wielded, so casual, yet so devastating, triggered memories of his past. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in years, not since his time within the heavenly demon cult. He recalled spectating a ceremonial battle in the cult, a fight that had left an indelible mark on him. The victor of that battle, the newly initiated vice leader of the heavenly demon cult, was none other than his brother, Yun Jung-hyuk. Nam Jin-soon had watched in awe as his brother had demonstrated martial prowess so overwhelming that even the left and right guardians of the cult could not match him at their peak. Now, the same crushing aura radiated from Yeon-Myeong, a force of nature that felt as unstoppable as his brother's had been. Realizing the hopelessness of his situation, Nam Jin-soon's pride crumbled. Kneeling on the ground, he pleaded for mercy. His voice trembled as he begged, offering his own life in exchange for his son's. His thoughts raced, desperate to save Yun So-chong, a boy who, in his eyes, was innocent of the machinations surrounding him. Despite his connection to the heavenly demon cult, Nam Jin-soon insisted that So-chong was unaware, merely a child caught in the chaos. But Yeon-Myeong, unmoved by the plea, saw things differently. To him, the demon cult had long since abandoned any notion of innocence. He coldly reminded Nam Jin-soon of the brutal reality, how those within the cult saw nothing wrong in killing a blacksmith simply because he hadn't provided a worthy sword. Before Nam Jin-soon could utter another word, Yun So-chong, bound and helpless, shouted in defiance. His words were cut short as Yeon-Myeong's sword flashed once more, striking So-chong's neck and ending his life with swift finality. The scene was horrifying, but Yeon-Myeong's expression remained as cold as the steel he wielded. Nam Jin-soon watched in horror, his teeth clenched as the last flicker of hope was extinguished before his eyes. His son lay dead, his pleas unanswered, and now all that remained was the grim reality of his family's destruction at the hands of Yeon-Myeong. There was no pity in Yeon-Myeong's heart. He understood too well the pain of loss, the vengeance born from devastation, but he had no sympathy for those who had inflicted such misery on others. Nam Jin-soon's agony was nothing more than a mirror of the countless families who had suffered at the hands of the cult. If anything, it was fitting justice. With his sword raised once more, Yeon-Myeong's voice carried an air of finality. He had no interest in further conversation, nor in prolonging the inevitable. The time for words was over. The last remnants of Nam Jin-soon's life, and any trace of his connection to the demonic cult, would be erased. Without hesitation, Yeon-Myeong brought his sword down, cold and precise, as he delivered the final blow. Go to the afterlife. Yeon-Myeong stared at the sword in his hands, a mixture of disbelief and contemplation crossing his usually calm features. The blade was a masterpiece, its weight perfectly balanced and its edge sharp enough to cut through the thickest armor without effort. He hadn't expected such a gift, and the offer seemed too generous. The swordsmith, however, brushed off the notion of any reluctance. Without Yeon-Myeong's intervention, neither he nor the others would still be standing. This sword, a creation of his master, had finally found its rightful owner, just as it was destined. As the swordsmith spoke, A sense of quiet satisfaction washed over him. His master had always believed that a weapon would find its perfect wielder. And now, seeing the blade in Yeon-Myeong's hands, he knew that day had come. The legacy of the sword was secure, and the gratitude in the smith's voice was sincere. From the sidelines, Mirio couldn't help but interject, urging Yeon-Myeong to accept the gift without hesitation. She could see the way the sword seemed to fit him, almost as if it had been forged with him in mind. Her words were blunt, but her meaning was clear. He deserved this weapon. Yeon-Myeong, standing nearby, echoed her sentiment, offering congratulations and admiration. Though Yeon-Myeong remained humble, it was clear he had little choice but to accept. The sword was a symbol of his growing strength, a reflection of the path he was walking. With a nod, he agreed to take it, but requested a simple scabbard to go along with the striking blade. The swordsmith, eager to fulfill his wish, readily agreed, knowing that this weapon was now in the hands of someone who would wield it well. As Yeon-Myeong stood with the sword, the familiar spirit observed in silence, pondering the young man's incredible talent. Despite his lineage from the Tang family, his mastery of the blade was undeniable, far surpassing expectations. In time, the spirit mused, Yeon-Myeong would grow into a force even greater than the legendary Mo Yonggake, the next sword king in the making.